Doom Eternal sucks. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the obsession is about, but I have been seeing a lot of people over the past several years try and tell you that like Doom Eternal is one of the best FPS games ever made. It's one of the best games ever made. It and Doom 2016 are phenomenal games. Like Doom Eternal is not as good as 2016, which in turn was not as good as the older Doom games, right? Like anyone who has actually played the older games or older FPS games in general know this, that there has been a steady decline in the genre since Halo Combat evolved. The genre does not know how to respect a player's intelligence and skill level, right? It is the bare bones, basic bitch American video game genre right now. There have been no innovations, there have been no improvements, there have been no like really good FPS games over the past several years. Okay, and Doom in a lot of ways is a bit of an outlier, right? Because it doesn't have the typical problems that other FPS games to have. Like it does try to have a good single player campaign. It does have like interesting mechanics. It comes closer than other FPS games do to becoming good, right? Like it it is better than most games in its genre out there, right? But that by no means makes it a masterpiece or makes it one of the best games ever. Like, again, people are barking up the wrong tree when talking about this. In fact, I would say right now that the best shooting franchise in the industry is Splatoon, and that the differences between first and third person shooters are just superficial and don't really amount to much. You know, Splatoon has better world building, better characters, better mechanics, a more interesting premise. Like Doom is just ridiculous nonsense, right? Like, oh, the Doom Slayer. And again, like the thing that gets me about Doom Eternal, right? The weird hype around it is this weird attempt at subverting this decades old franchise, right? Pretending that Doom has had this long, like, very strong history of having all this deep lore. Like, ooh, the Doom Slayer has been fighting demons for centuries, since the Dark Ages. Ooh, like, again, people treat this like it's a completely serious thing and not something they made up for Doom Eternal. Like this isn't even a thing in Doom 2016 because Doom 2016 was very much like the original Doom games in which you don't have a lot of context. You're just a guy on Mars fighting demons, right? Like you don't know like anything like about the character and a lot of it's up to your imagination, which was based, okay? Like it's one of my favorite things about Doom 2016 is that it actually respects classic video game philosophy in that mind. Like it doesn't need to have a story. You know, the creators of Doom have been very upfront about this, is that games should not have stories. And that's always been a stance I really appreciate about it. But like with Doom Eternal, you unironically see people try to tell you that like, oh, Doom Eternal is the end of the Doom Slayer story. We're never going to get another Doom game because this is the end and this is the best it's ever gonna get. That's why we're getting Doom the Dark Ages because they can only make prequels going forward because this is the climax of the entire thing. Like, what are you talking about? You delusional motherfucker. Like, Doom is inevitably going to get sequels, right? That would be like if I said that The Legend of Zelda is over because Link beats Ganon at the end of the game. Like, no, of course not. There's going to be sequels. You know, Zelda 2, oh, the bad guys are trying to bring Ganon back. And in A Link to the Past, like, oh, Ganon's inexplicably back. And then, like, they just make it, like, a stereotypical thing. Like, again, there's going to be more demons to shoot in, like, Doom the Modern Ages, like when we get a sequel to the Dark, like again, the idea that Doomslayer is a thing that like there's actually some lore in regards to the character and the world building, it is completely detrimental to like Doom's identity. right? And this is something I don't see a lot of people talk about or acknowledge, right? People just want to like blindly accept that Doom Eternal's lore is canon in spite of being retarded, in spite of making like obvious deviations from even 2016. Like it's weird, it's strange to me how many of these people like want to try and tell you that like this is a Doom Eternal is a sequel to 2016 when in reality it doesn't really have anything to do with it, right? It feels like its own completely different thing. If it wasn't for all the rehashed enemy designs and mechanics, yeah, like it would. It's just Doom just struggles, I think, with finding a Doom Eternal just struggles with making all of its ideas work in a way. Like all of it just falls flat on their faces. It doesn't come together well at all. It's boring. It kind of shocked me when I played Doom Eternal again recently, and I did do it within the past year. Just how quickly I got bored of it, right? Because I've consistently played Doom 2016 up until you see every enemy in the game. After that point, there's no reason to continue it. I'll like play the first several areas of Doom 2016 until I get bored of it, but Doom Eternal you get bored of very quickly, right? Like the game just doesn't really have a whole lot to offer aside from like uh platforming that doesn't really amount to much, right? Like how does the platforming make the core Doom gameplay better, right? Like they're just tacking on features to an experience that doesn't necessarily need them. Like it would be interesting if like maybe again it's absurd, right? Seeing people like look at the Dark Ages trailer and just be like, "Oh, you can ride a dragon." Well, okay, but like in Tears of the Kingdom, you can build your plane, you can fly it, you can like hit dragons out of the sky with it, right? With your powers, right? You can attach like cannons to it. You can do all this stuff, on the fly, right, in like completely unique, interesting ways. But you're expecting me to be like excited about riding a dragon, like especially with Doom's track record of introducing new mechanics. Like, no. Like, if I play a Doom game, all I want to do is run around a maze, like in the first two games, and just shoot demons. Like, that's it. Like, I want improved ways to do that, right? Like, when you look at like what Doom Eternal is doing, when you look at like the Dark Ages is doing, like everything they're adding seems to be deviating from that, right? Like when I see people praise the Dark Ages, it's just like, oh, it has totally unique weapons. Like, oh, look, you have a mace. A mace is just essentially going to amount to like pressing the melee button, right? It's going to be boring. It's going to be generic. It's going to be drawn out. It's going to be a lot like Doom Eternal, where like your ultra kills just take too long and you're not actually playing the game, right? Like I'm interested in seeing that like if the Dark Ages fails to impress people the way Doom Eternal did. Well, if Doom Eternal if it alienates the audience with Doom Eternal, I'm curious if like people will finally start turning on this IP because it's it's been exhausting the past several years, like dealing with people trying to act like Doom is on like some Renaissance period. It's not. It's just an above average reboot in in an era where like the average is like absolute trash, right? Like that's the problem right now. We're in the middle of a video game crash right now, and people are trying to say that like, oh well, at least Doom Eternal is good. It's not. Like grow up, At least Elden Ring is good. It's not. Like again, the Xbox Showcase was good. Yeah, if you if you have no standards at all. Like again, oh, it was the best showcase we've gotten. Yeah, because the only thing that people care about is the Nintendo Direct, which has not premiered yet, right? So like in all of your justifications and all your copes, they all just fall flat, right? Like Doom Eternal is simply not all that impressive or fun of a video game.